In a speech I give about state banks, I begin by showing a series of 20 slides. They begin in Boise, Idaho, where 1 in every 21 homes is being foreclosed. It's an overview of the city with lots of little red dots everywhere. Each one of those dots represents a broken dream, a foreclosed home. The other 19 slides include cities like Sacramento or Riverside or Bakersfield in California or Naples, Tampa, Port St. Lucie, Deltona in Florida. And then we come to Senator Harry Reid's state of Nevada. In Reno, Nevada, 1 out of every 16 homes is in foreclosure. In Las Vegas, Nevada, 1 out of every 9 homes. Each one of those red dots represents a broken dream. Most people watching this presentation are aware that the Federal Reserve System is a private corporation. It is not part of the federal government. Those who doubt that can look it up on Google, but it's true. The Constitution of the United States gives the right to borrow money on the credit of the United States to the Congress, not to a private corporation called the Federal Reserve. It gives the right to coin money, regulate the value thereof, and of foreign coins, and to fix the standard of weights and measures to the Congress, not to a private corporation called the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve will be 100 years old next year, 2013 actually. It has taken them 98 years of Federal Reserve policy to put all those red dots on all the slides that I show in that presentation. A recent audit of the Fed, thanks to Ron Paul and some other brave people, showed the Federal Reserve made $16 trillion in secret loans to American and foreign banks and businesses. Now, while the Fed was loaning this money to foreign banks, 6.5 million U.S. homeowners were suffering through delinquent and foreclosed mortgages. Federal Reserve policies obviously have given the American people all the reasons they need to take back control of their banking system and to establish state banks. Both the people and the government benefit when the state banks are done properly. Do we need to pay attention and make sure the state doesn't turn our banking system into a political toy like the Federal Reserve has? You bet. The answer is yes. We need to watch anything that is political to keep it from serving its own interests rather than our own. What is a state bank? Well, there's only one state-owned system of banking in the country, and that's in the state of North Dakota. North Dakota's owned and operated its own system of banking for 93 years. So we know what to expect. Nobody's guessing as to the outcome of what will happen if we implement state banks. Here are some of the benefits of state banking that North Dakota enjoys. As of July 2011, the unemployment rate in North Dakota was less than 3.5%. With a population of about 650,000 people, the North Dakota State Bank has, during the past 10 years, paid the state treasurer $325 million from bank profits. Just think what larger states with a greater population could contribute. In 2010, the worst economy in many, many years, North Dakota's government had its largest financial surplus in history. In North Dakota, since 2010, jobs increased by 61,000, and 17,000 of those jobs were created between 2008 and 2010, when most of us were losing jobs. At the current time, by the way, about 15,000 jobs remain open. So if you're looking, take a look at North Dakota. Does having a state bank mean that the state runs the banks you do business with? No, it does not. That would be a socialist system of banking. The state runs the bank, the state bank. Individual investors run the independent banks on street corners, just like they do now. A state bank is an administrative function that charters the banks that do business in the state. A state bank also acts as a correspondent bank for those banks that it charters. Now, when other states receive their tax revenues and fees, most of these funds are sent to the Federal Reserve and they get placed in money center banks, you know, the too big to jail guys. In North Dakota, the state bank keeps that money in the state and uses it to the benefit of its people. Some economists have estimated that one function can turn a state economy around within a year. Rather than money being deposited in New York and loaned to foreign bankers by the Federal Reserve, the money is kept in the state and is made available by the state to local communities to stimulate business growth, infrastructure enhancement, all of which results in job creation. I've made available to the Save America Foundation a copy of the state bank expert witness testimony that's being sent to governors around the country. It tells you what a state bank is and what it is not. I hope you'll go to the SaveAmericaFoundation.com website and look at that material. It tells you what state banks are and it tells you what they're not. I started writing about this issue of state banks a little over 2 years ago. Since that time, numerous states are legislatively investigating how they can implement state banks. Washington, Oregon, California, my own Colorado, Montana, Illinois, Hawaii, Florida, Virginia, Maryland, Massachusetts. So many states have already recognized the value of this system. There are two questions that tend to come up when I speak about this subject. Does a state that creates its own state bank need to produce its own currency? The answer is no. It's a good question, by the way. A state bank does, however, provide a distribution system for state currency should a state decide it needs to create one. If the federal system falls and a state wants to create its own currency, it has to have a state bank to distribute that currency. Otherwise, you've got a currency and chaos in the marketplace. The other question that comes up is about state sovereignty. Several states have legislatively declared their right to be sovereign recently. They include Alabama, Nebraska, Rhode Island, Wyoming, Washington, Indiana, Kentucky, Georgia, Kansas, Missouri, Mississippi, and Maryland. Now remember this about sovereignty. It's impossible to have a sovereign state without having control of your state's monetary system. To do that, you have to have a state bank. I hope that gives you a good idea of what a state bank is, the benefits it offers, why each state needs one, and how it is the key to making it possible for Americans to maintain every possible alternative as we face difficult times ahead, and they will be difficult. When you go to the Save America Foundation website and look up the state bank initiative that I've placed there, please feel free to send me your suggestions. I'd be delighted to get them. And I know the Save America Foundation would love to hear from you too. I'd like to close by asking a simple question. Isn't it nice to be affiliated with a group that offers you solutions to problems rather than a group that merely points out what the problems are? It's one of the things I appreciate about Save America Foundation. I hope you do too. Thanks.